All right, it is Sunday, January 4th. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Senior hanging out here with you. Hope you're all having a fantastic Sunday, and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making this edition of the 49ers Report a part of your day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. And, of course, give me a follow on all my social media platforms at Chase_Senior. We're humming on TikTok, Instagram, X, and if you're on Facebook as well, just search Chase Senior Chat Sports. Over the last month, I've been posting a lot over there, and we've been able to have a lot of success on the Facebook front as well. Coming up here on the show, obviously some games going on here in the early window, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific here in Week 18 to round out the regular season, and then a loaded slate of games coming up in the afternoon slate at both 4:05 p.m. Eastern, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, and then tonight, huge game that doesn't impact the Niners, but has big implications in the AFC North. The winner of Steelers-Ravens on Sunday Night Football will determine who wins the NFC or AFC North, and who gets into the playoffs. The loser is out. So Aaron Rodgers against Lamar Jackson here tonight. I want to take a look at the updated Niners playoff picture after this loss to the Seahawks. And then, of course, continue to talk about that defeat for San Francisco last night. A very rough one as the Niners go down 13-3. And we'll dive further into that here coming up in just a bit. With that Seahawks victory last night, Seattle gets the number one seed in the NFC. They win the NFC West. They get that first round bye and home field advantage during the NFC playoffs. Seattle now winning 14 games in a regular season for the first time in franchise history. And I like the Seahawks team going into 2025. I thought that a lot of people were sleeping on the Seahawks heading into this year. They were 10-1 odds to win the NFC West. I thought the betting value of that was really good. They had a little bit of an organizational reset this past offseason, but Brian Schneider is a future Hall of Famer. He's a really good general manager and has a good eye for talent. The run that he went on and the Seahawks went on with Pete Carroll, obviously highly impressive, going to back-to-back Super Bowls, probably should have won back-to-back, but obviously that infamous interception along the goal line when Seattle elected to not give the football to Marshawn Lynch against the Patriots cost Seattle back-to-back rings, but that first Super Bowl victory was a dominant effort against the Peyton Manning-led Broncos in MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And the run that the Seahawks went on with the Legion of Boom defense, with Russell Wilson when he was in his prime, Marshawn Lynch at running back, it was just a very good run in this generation, or I should say that generation of football, right? And obviously Seattle had some lulls there once Russ started to go downhill toward the end of that Pete Carroll regime. But I like what Brian Schneider did this offseason, resetting a little bit by letting go of DK Metcalf, getting rid of Tyler Lockett, putting more of an emphasis on getting the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba. He had a terrific 2025. Bring in a veteran like Cooper Kupp, who's not the player who he once was, but a good veteran leader who last night had a couple of big third down conversions. Putting a priority on the run game, which we saw last night, Seattle running for nearly 200 yards on the evening. That allowed them to run it 39 times, dominate time of possession. They possessed the football for 37 minutes in the game, 15 more than the Niners. They controlled the clock, and they kept what was the hottest offense in the NFL for the Niners on the sideline. And then San Francisco wasn't able to find a rhythm. And then on defense, Brian Schneider has loaded up a defensive unit under Mike Macdonald that is physical, that is fast, that is talented, that is long and athletic. And you saw last night that defense caused so many fits for San Francisco. And then for Mike Macdonald, I just think it comes down to this. Like, he is one of the best young defensive minds in the National Football League. And last night, he thoroughly outcoached Kyle Shanahan. Now, it's important to note that Kyle Shanahan kind of had to coach this game with one hand tied behind his back. And a couple of things can be true, right? The Niners would have never won 12 games without Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan should be in the running for Coach of the Year. In losing that game in that manner, Shanahan's not going to win it. It'll probably go to Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, or Liam Cohen, and they're certainly deserving, especially the likes of a Liam Cohen, a Ben Johnson, who they were able to turn around pretty bad organizations overnight. And then Mike Vrabel, after an awful year last year, end of the Bill Belichick era, got a little bit weird. Vrabel has the Patriots playing really well this year. And in a spot where they dethroned the Buffalo Bills to get the AFC East crown back in their possession. And so one of those coaches is going to win Coach of the Year. No longer Kyle Shanahan. And the Niners certainly also missed Trent Williams in the run and pass game last night. They missed Ricky Pearsall last night because they did not have a single player who could stretch the field vertically. And all year, Kyle Shanahan's been able to find answers for the Niners' flaws, and he's been able to cover those flaws up. Last night, he didn't have any answers. And Mike McDonald really exposed the Niners offense. And San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan had absolutely no answers for what Seattle was doing on defense. And it's not like Seattle really did anything all that exotic, right? Whether it was man or zone, they had the Niners number. The Niners had, I believe, 8 possessions last night. They only picked up a first down on 4 of them. They couldn't pass block. They couldn't run block. They couldn't generate any explosive plays, and that's what Mike McDonald does a great job of limiting. They couldn't establish the run game to open up the pass game. None of the play action really worked out. They tried to run a trick play at one point. Seattle was all over it. A double reverse pop pass back to Brock Purdy. It gained like 4 yards on the play on a check down to Christian McCaffrey. When the Niners finally did find some momentum and moved the ball, they got inside the red zone. Christian McCaffrey dropped a pass. It got intercepted, and that was pretty much the ball game right there. I thought Brock Purdy was under pressure all night long. The offensive line was awful. The 1 4th down call, Kyle tried to draw up a deep shot to George Kittle, but the offensive line protection couldn't hold up. And I thought last night was a great example of how the Niners' organizational offensive philosophy has killed them in the biggest of games against the most elite talent. And last night we saw how much Trent Williams was missed, right? Trent Williams goes out, and a good enough offensive line becomes terrible. There's a reason why Austin Pleasance didn't start a game in the NFL until last night. And I told you all week, Austin Pleasance played well against the Bears. Good for him. The Bears defense, opportunistic. They generate a lot of turnovers. Nowhere near as good as this Seahawks defense. And we saw why last night. I mean, the Niners could not do jack shit on the offensive side of the ball. And so I really put this loss on the offense. It's up to the offense to carry this team. This offense had been on fire, and they took advantage of going up against bad opponents. When they go up against arguably the best defense in the NFL, completely shut down. These numbers, very, very ugly. Seattle had 23 first downs to the Niners 9. Seattle was 6 of 13 on third downs, the Niners 2 of 9. San Francisco also 0 of 2 on 4th down. 67 total plays for the Seahawks to 42 for San Francisco. 361 yards to 173. Yards per play 5.4 to 4.1. Passing yards 181 to 120. Yards per pass 4 for San Francisco. 6.5 for Seattle. Rushing 183 yards for the Seahawks, 53 for the Niners. San Francisco 0 of 1 in the red zone because they turned the rock over. And time of possession, 37 minutes, 48 seconds for the Seahawks, 22 minutes and 12 seconds for San Francisco. They could just never find a groove. Seattle made them uncomfortable all throughout the evening, every single minute, all 4 quarters. And then again, when the Niners finally found something, they popped that deep play and explosive play to George Kittle. They get into the red zone, and then they turn the football over. And that's what happens when a defense is applying pressure all night long, forcing the offense to play a little bit tight because they were feeling the pressure. Sticky coverage from Seattle. Nobody was running open for the Niners all night long. And that's a strength of Kyle Shanahan, to draw up and devise plays to get players open in space. Again, it hurts that you don't have Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall. The Niners this offseason are going to have to reshape their wide receiver room. Pearsall can't stay healthy. Jawan Jennings is a good player, but he's going to demand a lot of money. He's more of a wide receiver 3. Kendrick Bourne is who he is, and DeMarcus Robinson is who he is. The Niners badly need more speed on this offense to combat a team in Seattle who's not going anywhere, and they're fast and physical and long. Player like Nick Gaiman will be fascinating, right? I mean, he's lining up all over the place. And this Seahawks defensive line just manhandled and bullied this Niners offensive line. And I've been saying this since 2021. Until San Francisco puts more of an emphasis on getting better up front in big games like this, they're not going to have a chance. If the Niners have to go on the road and play the Philadelphia Eagles, Chase, you're from Philly. Of course you're going to say this. No, I'm saying this because I evaluate the game of football, right? For a living. And I love doing it. And I put a lot of pride and work into what I do. If the Niners have to go on the road and play Philly, given San Francisco's struggles to stop the run, and because of this Niners offensive line going up against the Eagles defensive line, which might be more talented than Seattle's front, with the defense just as good, I don't like the Niners' chances of winning that game because of the Niners' inability to stop the run against the Bears. If they have to go on the road to Chicago, where weather will make it more of a defensive-oriented ball game, which Chicago wants because their defense stinks and they want to muddy it up. And the Niners can't stop the run against the Bears. They will not win that game, and they will not beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia's offensive line hasn't been as good this year, but they'll be good against the Niners' defensive line. And Philly's defensive line will be able to truck stick this Niners offensive line. And when that happens, this offense goes awry. They have no answers. Because when you can't run block, there were no running lanes for Christian McCaffrey last night. And when you can't protect Brock Purdy, gonna be a long, long day. And the Niners don't have the luxury of being able to lean on their defense. And look, some people might say, Chase, the defense, they gave up 13 points. Pretty damn good. You're right. But the Seahawks also left 9 points at least on the field. Missed 2 field goals, and then on the first drive, when they ate up half the clock of the first quarter, they went for it on 4th and goal. So that's 9 points right there. So this game very easily could have been 22-9. And because of this defense, the Niners have really a ceiling and a cap for what they can do this year. And that's naturally what happens when you're without the likes of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, 2 very, very special players. But I also think back to the NFL trade deadline. And this is where the Niners not making a trade for a defensive lineman really comes back to bite them. The Niners badly needed help along the defensive line, whether it be a run stopper and or a pass rusher. And I know they made the moves for Cleveland Ferrell and Keon White. It was great, right? That happened before Mykel Williams got hurt. So then you're without your starting 2 defensive ends from opening day in Nick Bosa and Mykel Williams, both of whom are good run defenders and can get after the quarterback. And you're without a Fred Warner. The Niners are clearly a body short on defense. They needed some help. And what hurts is that, is Christian McCaffrey going to be able to give you next year what he gave you this year? George Kittle will be another year older. When do you get back Mykel Williams and Nick Bosa? When will Fred Warner come back, and what will he look like? This is a wide open NFC. And you saw that shot of John Lynch just beside himself when the Niners defense gave up that 3rd and 17 run, which was another backbreaker in this game. And John Lynch was like, no way, you got to be effing kidding me. Well, look, if you made a move or moves on defense to further bolster that unit, your defense would be much better and you'd have a shot in the NFC in a wide open year where there is not a great team. And entering the playoffs here, we have no idea who's going to represent the NFC or the AFC. This could have been a year for San Francisco. Now, I just don't see it happening. Against elite teams, your flaws often get exposed, and that happened to the Niners last night. Defensively, can't stop the run, can't get after the quarterback. Sam Darnold had all night to throw, and Seattle played it really safe with Sam Darnold. They did not want him to turn it over and become big game Sammy. And then the Niners offensive line against an elite defense got exposed. And you could say what you want about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense. They've certainly been Jekyll and Hyde all year long. Hurts, for 4 straight years, has had more than 30 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley ran for over 1,000. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, close to 1,000 yards. Their offensive line, very talented. They need to play better. They have a tight end who caught 11 touchdowns this year, and their defense is one of the best in the NFL. Since week 7 or week 8, they're giving up like 14 or 15 points per game. They're right up there with Seattle. So you watched that game last night, and you saw how San Francisco got exposed and handled from a physical standpoint, especially at the point of attack along the line of scrimmage. That's a concern that I have with the Niners going on the road to play the Eagles in what is going to be a very hostile environment. And the Eagles haven't forgotten about what happened in 2023, and the Niners haven't forgotten about what happened in 2022. In order for San Francisco to win that game, they're going to have to stop the run. They're going to have to be on fire on offense in cold weather against an elite defense. And their defense is going to have to play a lot better than they've been playing, but it's a personnel issue at this point. And the offensive line is going to have to play out of their minds. And I don't know if Trent Williams is going to be able to solve that by himself. So some more thoughts on that Niners loss last night. All right. New Niners playoff path update after the Niners lost to the Seahawks last night. If the Rams beat the Cardinals today, the Niners will be the 6th seed. If the Rams lose, the Niners will be the 5 seed. If the Eagles win today at home against Washington, they are resting their starters, and the Bears lose today, they are playing their starters at home against Detroit. The Eagles will get the 2 seed, and the Bears drop to the 3. If the Bears win, regardless of what the Eagles do, they'll be the 2 seed. Eagles will be the 3 seed because Chicago won the head-to-head on Black Friday. Even though the Bucs beat the Panthers yesterday, if the Falcons win, and they're currently playing the Saints in a close game, Carolina will be the NFC South champ, not Tampa Bay, and Carolina would be the 4 seed. If the Saints beat the Falcons today, and again, that game is happening right now, the Buccaneers win the NFC South, Tampa Bay gets the 4 seed. So the Niners will go on the road to play either the 3-seeded Bears, the 3-seeded Eagles, or the 4-seeded Panthers or Bucs. That is how what transpired yesterday impacts San Francisco here. All right. Just wanted to pass all that along, do a quick Niners show here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'll be back a little bit later with another video talking about the Niners wild card matchup, so be on the lookout for that. Until then, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give me a follow on all my social media pages, and I'll catch you soon here on the 49ers Report. As always, thanks for watching and supporting.